Okay. Hi, folks. I'm just setting up here. I'll start by lighting a candle. Hi, everybody. This is Will from the Hermit's Lantern Tarot. Oh, my candle went out. Well, let's light a different one. I have a backup here. This is a black cat candle that I recently purchased. Let's light it. I think my other one's dead. Okay, and let me burn some Palo Santo. Okay, get some smoke going here. All right, so hi, everybody. Thanks for joining me this afternoon. I see we've already got several folks in the chat with reading requests, so let me start making up my list. Let's see. Okay. All right, so my list to start, as far as I can tell, based on first come, first serve, Saab 6278, Jazz Ziggy Pie, Sanja, Jenna, Ayez Harris, and Jocelyn. So we'll start there. And as per usual, I will call your name when I get to you. And if you're here, I'll do your reading. And if you're not, I may need to skip over you and move on to the next person. But we will just see how it goes. Let me do some preliminary shuffling. I haven't touched these cards since yesterday, so I want to make sure there's no cards that are stuck together or that they're in a totally random order before we start going. And again today, I'm using the Gay Marseille Tarot by Charlie Claire Burgess. Welcome to anyone who might be joining. My name is Will from the Hermit's Lantern Tarot. I'm doing some free readings today. Check out the video description and check out the pinned chat message. Okay, so let me see. I'll go ahead and add Aura Jeter. And Cosmic Melissa, maybe? All right. Nice to meet you all too. Okay, so first up is Sob6278. Hello, hello. And we've got the question here in the chat, so let me read it and then I'll shuffle and we'll pull some cards. The question is, what spiritual or psychic gifts do I possess that I might not be aware of? It's a fun question. I like that. Psychic or spiritual gifts. So I think this would be a good reading to start with just 3 cards. That's what I go to most of the time, although sometimes I change it up depending on the question. So psychic or spiritual gifts that Sob may not be aware of. Okay, let's see what we get here. All right, first card down, 8 of Wands. Ooh, followed by the Hanged One. And 2 Cups. What an interesting little spread. So I would read this as saying that when there is a situation that cannot be helped, that's what I'm seeing with the Hanged Man. When, like, we've all been there, right? You're like in a situation, in a circumstance, and it's like there seems to be just nothing that you can do, right? Uh, you can access your empathy with others, or another way to put it might be your ability to, we could say, psychically connect with others, your ability to access their level of awareness in a way that ordinary people may not be able to access to improve that situation. And particularly in one on one cases. And I say that because we've got the 2 of Cups. So that takes care of these last 2 cards, but we need to address the 8 of Wands as well. And so I think what this is saying is when you've done everything practically that you can do in a situation, you've tried working with others, you've tried following the rules and regulations, you've tried practical strategy, and everything you've done that is like an ordinary course of action doesn't work because you just end up like the hanged one. Uh, it it could be that you are then able to see or maybe intuit or feel from another perspective how someone else's unconscious, or we could say the shadow side, right? You can get in touch with that in a way that can move the situation forward. So it's a kind of empathy or intuition that can get you out of impossible situations. The Eight of Batons I see as a card of practicality, practical strategy, working with others, um, moving things along, like building something, weaving something together. But if all that work you're doing just ends with you hung upside down, there's still something else you can do, right? And so it might be the kind of thing that doesn't always come out every day, because if you're using practical strategies and working with others and all of that, um, maybe it doesn't need to, right? Because you have more ordinary ways of solving your problems. But then when you hit a wall, so to speak, there's something else you can draw on. And that would be your hanged man, two of cups moment, or hanged person, two of cups moment. And I suspect that it might be the kind of thing that, as I said, works better like one on one as opposed to in groups. And Sab says, "Oh, no wonder why I'm easily drained by people." Yes, I would especially. Eights I see as large groups of people. Threes tend to be smaller groups. Eights are large groups, but two is just a pair, right? And so, um, a one-on-one empathetic kind of exchange is that's where your power comes out, as opposed to, like, I don't know, you're in a meeting at work, or you're with a big group of people, or even a social situation with lots of different people. That I think is more likely to end up in, you can use your practical strategies, but you might get hung up there, so to speak, and then your way out is one-on-one empathetic connections with others. All right, so let's see here. Flora Soul, I'm adding you to the bottom of the list. And Starry Night, I'm adding you to the bottom of the list. So next up we have Jazz Ziggy Pie, followed by Sanja and Jenna. That's where we're at. Cool, Jazz Ziggy Pie's here. Great. Welcome, welcome. And we've got the question. Fantastic. Okay. So the question is, what will happen between me and Christian if I talk to him again? I was ending things. And it's like you're wondering if that was the right choice. Okay. So this is someone you dated in some capacity, and then you ended it, and you're thinking like, should I go back, or should I not? Um, I think to get the clearest possible answer for this question, because it does seem like you sort of have two options. It's like, do you go back to talking with him, or do you really end it? And so I think we should do 3 cards for each option. That tends to be clearer for me anytime it's a question of a choice. And Jazz Ziggy Pie says, I had to end things because he was being creepy. All right. And also, he had a girlfriend. Okay. But I think he liked talking to me, but I didn't feel safe. So that's not good. Not feeling safe with a partner is definitely bad. But let's see what we get. So we'll do 3 cards for if you start talking to this guy again, and 3 cards for if you just say, never mind, time to move on. Okay, let's see. What should Jazz Ziggy Pie do with regards to this guy, Christian? First 3 cards will be talking to him again, engaging with him again. And second 3 cards will be not doing that. All right, here we go. First 3 cards. 2 batons, followed by the sun, and then 9 batons. Second 3 cards, 8 cups, Page of Swords, and the Chariot. So the first 3 cards, let's start there. The first 3 cards, the 2 of you getting together in a practical way, on the one hand, could result in either cooperation or possibly competition, friendship. And with the sun, I always think of seeing things clearly, which is almost always desirable. And after you see things clearly, we'll get 9 batons, meaning a change of method or a change of how you approach the situation. Can also be a change of social status, although I'm not sure that that applies in any way. There's a sense of building pressure from 2 to 9, fairly quick building pressure. And I wouldn't say that, we're talking, I think, about a romantic relationship, right? These cards are very much more about a practical, like convenient or social connection. Although the Sun card does tend to be one about a symmetrical relationship, right? That's like balanced where the people are out in the open and nothing is hidden and it's all like right out there. So in some sense it depends on what you're looking for. These first 3 cards are saying that if what you're interested in is a practical connection that is maybe more of the friendship type, uh, it could be a good idea. Although I do think there's something here about after you get to know this guy more, light being shed on something in his personality or his life that requires you to make a change. I read nines in terms of changes in the playing cards and in the Marseille tarot. Um, like you'll need to make a judgment at some point about maybe about whether to even continue it again. Um, with the second 3 cards, we have a really good atmosphere. 8 of Cups, which is the card that's about extended family or friends or a party, a big group hug. Like this is thinking really good thoughts, things going very well for you, especially in terms of your relationships with other people. But with the Page of Swords, there is some hesitation or a sense of needing to be a little bit guarded. And I'm not certain right off the bat why that might be. Maybe you can answer for yourself because you'll know your own circumstance better than I would. But is there something about you not being with this person that would sort of have you looking over your shoulder, even though everything seems to be pretty good? So that situation followed by the Chariot, where you're driven to move on and go forward, but perhaps sort of needing to put on some armor. With the first situation of going back with, or at least talking with this guy, Christian, the human figures in the card are not wearing armor, right? They're not naked, but they're pretty close to it, right? So there is a sense of you like deciding to be open, but also vulnerable, right? Because you don't metaphorically have your armor on. With the second 3, the option of putting this guy behind you, things seem really good, and yet there is some reason why you feel the need to wear armor. The Page has a little bit of it on, but the Chariot is fully decked out in armor, right? So you're really it's almost as though I'm gonna be totally honest with you. Reading your question about Christian, him being creepy and you not feeling safe and he was with someone else, before I laid the cards out, I thought, there is no way that I should recommend getting involved with this guy again because that sounds bad. But of course, I don't know all the details and I know practically nothing about the situation. And my goal is not to read the situation, my goal is to read the cards. And the cards are kind of saying like there might still be something you could learn from this Christian guy. But I would be, like, super careful about it because what we're not seeing, if you go back to him, is a bunch of love and, emotional connection, right? Which and I'm making an assumption there that that's what you're after, and it may or may not be, right? Because different people are looking for different things in relationships. Uh, and sort of against what I would expect, the cards that we have here indicating you abandoning this relationship, or maybe that's the wrong word, choosing not to go back. to this Christian guy, there is it's like your armor goes back on and you feel like you have to be defensive. There's guardedness. There's like you need to find out more information, even though with the 8 of Cups, it's like everything seems good. So why isn't it? Yeah. Okay. Let me look at the chat because I haven't been watching it. Okay. Okay. Jazz Ziggy Pie says, yes, a friendship. He kind of told me when we were talking, he said, like, I wish people told me about you when I was younger and told me things that you liked. But I thought he would already text me on Facebook Messenger. I'm giving him his space, but I've just unblocked him in the middle of healing right now. Have I learned things about him? The reason why is because he told me he wanted to be friends with me, but I know he kind of likes me. Okay. So these cards, the first 3 cards are absolutely a spread, a string of cards describing what I would read as a friendship. People cooperating, working together to build something. They're on an equal footing. But it's very much more of the practical, friendly kind and less of the "I'm madly in love with you, take me away" kind of thing, right? Um, the second 3 cards, I also note both of the human figures on these cards are looking back, right? I wonder if it's a sense of regret. Is it possible that if you don't sort of finish things out with Christian that you're gonna regret it? Like, you're not gonna feel, "Are you coming or going?" Are you gonna keep thinking, "Should I go forward? Should I go back? Was I just hesitating? Was I too guarded? Did I have my armor on?" Is it that? Is it possible that that is what's what the alternative is? That maybe you need to finish out whatever you started with Christian, because if you don't, you're always gonna wonder. And, and your relation, even if what the relationship with him turns out to be is just a friendship, honestly, I think that's a very mature thing to do. Be friends with someone, um, who you used to date. I've never been able to do that, unfortunately, but, that's my own, failing in life. Uh, so I wonder if that's it, if it's like looking back, always wondering what could have been, what could have happened, instead of just sort of deciding to push through and find out what could have happened. Yeah, she says, Jazzy Pie says, thank you so. And we are kind of getting into fights. He kind of thinks that I'm judging him when he wasn't. So the other thing is that with the batons, they are about cooperation and working with others, but that can also turn into competition with others because, batons, these are polo batons. Not that I've ever played polo, but historically, these wands or batons on the card are the stick that they use or used to play the game of polo. So think about almost like competitive sports. And so that I think is what the spread's getting at here with the quick movement from 2 to 9. It's like a little bit of pressure or competitive energy turns into a lot to the point where you like it sort of might be so much of that, that you might decide, like, this maybe is no longer worth it for me, but now I'm certain of it instead of not doing it and looking back and saying, "Gee, what would have happened if I'd tried again?" That's how I'd read that. So, it's also possible that just getting this reading today could change your feelings. If going back to Christian is just going to clear your mind and make you realize that it was never gonna work. And if seeing these cards can sort of make that clear to you, give you clarity about that, then maybe just seeing the cards means you don't have to do it anymore. I don't know. Maybe I'm overly hopeful about what tarot can do for us, but that would be something to consider too. Just know that if you leave things behind with him now, I think you're even though everything's gonna be good in terms of, like, the atmosphere around you is good, for some reason, you're still gonna be looking back and wondering and trying to decide, like, "Should I keep going forward or should I turn around? Have I driven too far ahead? Did I miss my exit?" That kind of thing. And so sometimes the only way out is through instead of around. Yeah. Good, I'm glad it gives you clarity. That's what I hope tarot can do, is give people clarity. Yeah, great. If this gives you clarity that, like, the same thing's gonna happen again, it's gonna be more competition, it's gonna be more pressure, you're just going to have a clearer, brighter vision of what you already knew was there, then maybe you don't need to experience it firsthand. Yeah. Okay, so let's see. Did I miss anyone? Okay, I've got Florisol on the bottom of the list. Starry Night, Human. I'm adding you. Human. Saretta, I'm adding you. Stormborn. I'm adding you to the bottom of the list. Okay. So next three up, we have our Sanja, Jenna, and then Ayes Hares, Ayes Hares. Yes, I did get a new candle. My other one wouldn't light. I lit it, and I think it's kind of just a stub at this point, and I couldn't get it to light. I lit it like 3 times, and it went out every time, and so it was saying to me, "I don't want to be lit." So so I lit this little, black cat candle that I bought at my local shop the other day. Actually, I think it was last month. I think it was for the holidays. Okay, so Sanja, you are next. And if Sanja's not here, then Jenna? Okay, Jenna, we'll go to you. Okay. Jenna wants to know, is there any meaningful third-party romantic interference affecting the connection between Zach and me at this time? I'm a Virgo, he's a Gemini. Oh, and Sanja posted their question earlier. Okay, I'll go back to you, Sanja, when I finish Jenna's reading. Okay, so is there any meaningful third-party romantic interference affecting the connection between Jack and Zach and Jenna? All right. So, I think it's pretty clear from the way you phrased the question that you're dating Zach, and obviously, from your perspective, there's no third party, but you think there might be with him. So, okay. Okay. So, Zach and Jenna are physically exclusive, but he's getting coffee with some girl today. He told me not to worry, she's not his type, but I'm anxious. All right. So that's the very specific context, but you're wondering, like, if you and he are, as you put it, physically exclusive, um, is that really true, right? Or is there any serious romantic entanglement that could threaten what you and Zach have? Okay. He refuses to kiss other girls, but there's a lot of other things besides kissing one can do, right? Okay, so let me just see. Okay. So I think we should read this from his perspective, from Zach's perspective, because what you're wondering is not what you know, but sort of what he knows. So, as far as Zach is concerned, is there any significant third party? Okay. Or is it just you and him? All right. Okay, 3 cards. We'll start with that, see what we get. The Emperor, 7 wands, the World, and we need to see what the Emperor's looking at. Temperance. And so I'm gonna pull another one because I wanna see what Temperance is looking at. 7 coins. Okay. So you said he's getting coffee with someone, if I remember. I'm just thinking as I look at these about how I'm gonna say what I wanna say. So he's the Emperor, right? And then we've got Temperance and we've got the World. 3 majors. And because of your detail about he said he's getting, I think if I'm remembering right, he's getting coffee with some girl today. When I saw the Temperance and holding the cups, I immediately thought, "Oh, there's the coffee," right? So that's her, Temperance, which means you're back here, the World, right? Um, so we definitely have 3 people in the picture, and the question was whether this is a significant, um, I think you said romantic interference, right? I'm just thinking. So let me make a couple of observations. I think the answer I want to give to your question is like potentially, not definitely. I'm not sure he knows for sure yet if he's actually serious about this person. But the first observation I would make is first thing I'm doing is I'm assigning identities to each of the cards, right? And so he's the emperor because that seems to fit best, right? He's the guy in the situation for one. Not that gender necessarily always plays a role, but in this spread, I think that that makes sense for him to be the emperor. He's sort of the one sitting down and kind of calling the shots, right? And he's looking at Temperance, who is this person with the coffee cups, let's call them, pouring them back and forth. Uh, and then you're over here, kind of far away in terms of like the placement of the cards. You're separated by a card. So there's something between you, the world, and the emperor. There's literally in the spread, there's something between you. Whereas with the emperor and temperance, there's nothing, they're closer. There's nothing like blocking the two of them. I will note that the emperor is looking at temperance, but temperance is not looking at the emperor, right? So he's looking at her, but she's not, like, she's near him, but she's not necessarily looking back, right? Uh, which suggests a little bit like he may have an interest, but that doesn't mean that it's reciprocated, right? Which is another reason to say, like, is this a significant romantic interference? Well, if it's not reciprocated, then I wouldn't call it serious, right? Uh, but the fact that just spatially at this moment he's closer to temperance than he is to the world gives me pause. And I want to think why, right? And so what's in between the two of you is the Seven of Wands. Some thorniness, perhaps. Um, with the Seven of Wands, uh, I think about something that has been built, created, put together, but that maybe isn't as neatly put together as it needs to be, right? Like maybe there's kind of some weeds in the garden, might be a way of putting it. It doesn't mean that it's bad. It's not swords. It's not a tower, nothing like that. But like the garden needs some weeding, or something was built not quite right and it needs to sort of get readjusted, right? Uh, I'm also looking at the seven of coins, which obviously turns into the seven of uh, wands, and so this suggests that the energy that's being invested in the relationship, that there's a kind of obstacle in it. Sevens, I very much associate with there's an obstacle or a challenge to be overcome, right? It's like you're walking along and you trip on something. There's a stumbling block. Uh, and it moves from being a stumbling block in terms of how the relationship is valued or the energy that's invested in it, to a problem with how it's actually built, like how it's put together, practically speaking. Um, so there's definitely some kind of obstacles, and maybe it has to do with the frequency with which you can see each other. Because I think you mentioned you can only see each other on Saturdays, something like that, and so maybe that is like a practical obstacle, right? There would be your seven of batons. Um, let's think about temperance for a moment. Temperance is an angel, right? You see the wings? Temperance is an angel who is very good at getting things right, like mixing things perfectly. The kind of person who can be very flexible, almost to the point of obsessiveness in situations. And so I can't help but wonder, what does an angel want to have to do with an emperor, right? And I'm thinking that also because of the way, as I said, the angel of temperance is not looking at the emperor. So there is, as you already know, something there that you're, as you said, anxious about, uneasy about. And I think that that is well-founded, but I don't actually think that his coffee date or whatever it is with this other person, I don't think it's gonna go anywhere. So in that sense, you don't have to worry, right? If what you're worried about is his coffee date with this person is gonna turn into, um, a third person who, like, really gets in the way of what the 2 of you have, I don't think that is the issue. If instead of temperance, we had the empress, then maybe there's a problem, maybe. But with temperance here, holding the cups, I do think there's some indication that the 2 of you have some challenges to work through. But I don't but to specifically answer the question you asked, I don't think you have to worry specifically about this person he's having the coffee date today. Um, he has his eyes on this person in some capacity. It could just be as a friendship. It doesn't necessarily mean a romantic thing, right? Um, but I don't think that Temperance is looking at him, this person that Zach's having the coffee date with, is looking at him in the same way, if he even has that on his mind at all. So let me look at my chat. Yeah, you say it makes sense. Yeah, okay, good. So, yeah, some obstacles, challenges rather, might be a good way to put it. Um, and the third person is like in the picture, but not in a way like an angel and an emperor. It's just hard to imagine them getting together, you know? Okay, you're welcome, Jenna. I hope that gives some clarity. So, Sanja, you are up next, and let me. I love this. Sanja wants to know, dear Will, I have a goofy question. Next week, I have a hair appointment. Will I be satisfied and content with the results and the price? I'm an Aquarius. Cool. I love these kinds of questions because they are fun and different. I've never read that I can remember. I don't think I've ever read for what the outcome of a hair appointment will be. So this is exciting. All right. So let's see. Will you be satisfied with the work they do on your hair and with the price? And so we'll start with 3 cards. And often 3 is enough, but we'll see. Okay, 3 cards. Let's see. How's this hair appointment gonna go? Page of Cups, the Hermit, Page of Coins. Okay. So I might pull another card before the Page of Cups. I'm not sure that I need to, because the spread is clearly saying that with Page of Cups, cups I would read as beauty, right? And so if we're thinking about hair, we're thinking about beauty, right? How good something looks. Page of Cups makes me think of two things. Number one, beautiful, young, right? But also, there could be something like a little inexperienced about it. That's one. With the Page of Coins, it's very much like you're gonna get exactly what you pay for, right? You get the Page of Cups haircut because you're paying 1 coin or maybe 2 if we count the one on the ground. But no, I think I'd read it as you're paying 1 coin, keeping the other, and you're getting the 1 Page of Cups instead. So, like, you get what you pay for. Um, with the Hermit, um, it may be a little unconventional. There may be which it could be good or bad, I don't know what kind of style you like, but the hermit is the sort of person who tends to reject conventional notions of everything. The hermit in the world looks around and says, "No way, this is not for me. I'm gonna grab my lantern, I'm gonna go up the mountain, I'm gonna find a cave, and I'm gonna hole up in this cave. I'm rejecting what everybody else says is how a person ought to live," right? And so there may be a little bit of like unconventionality. It's different. Some people might not get it, right? Um, but that doesn't mean that it's not beautiful. Yeah? Uh, let me check the chat. No, you won't be without hair. I wouldn't know. I wouldn't worry about that. If anything, I'd say with the Page of Cups first up, um, that sort of sets the tone for the rest of the reading. But then the Hermit, I think, is modifying it, right? I wouldn't look specifically at because maybe you're noticing the way that like the Hermit card is kind of losing their hair. I don't think that's it. I think it's more just pointing to it might be a little bit outside of the box or unconventional, um, or bold potentially. Yeah, because the hermit doesn't care. The hermit doesn't give a fuck. I don't know if I can swear. Does YouTube care if I swear? Um, so, and I think that you'll think that what you get is totally fair for what you're paying, right? Page of Coins, Page of Cups. So, like a perfectly equal exchange. Okay. Paying a lot. You say you're paying a lot. Yeah, I think you'll still feel that it's equal. Um, it's better be good. Well, I'm trying to decide. Okay, I'm gonna pull one more and see what the Page of Cups is looking at. The Fool. Um, is there any way that like, I don't know what you're asking them to do, but the fool in the context of this question makes me think about kind of taking a risk a little bit, like with the style, right? Like instead of going with what's established and usual and expected, the fool's like, let's try this, right? And it's unconventional, attractive. Well, also, with the Page of Cups is one often who is following their dream. So, like, is there like a slightly unconventional or even risky hairstyle that you've like dreamt of trying but haven't? This would suggest that that kind of situation might be coming up. Yeah, very creative. I'm glad you're laughing, Sanja. Please update us. Please tell us um, how it goes next week. I'm curious to see. Okay, so let's look at the list because I see it's just me. I don't have a moderator or anyone in the chat, and so there's no way that I can keep up with everything that's going on in the chat. So this is the list that I've got right now, and I think what I'm going to do is just try to work through these because it usually takes me about 15 minutes per person, and I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I've got 9, so I've got like 2 hours worth of readings on my list right now, unless folks don't show up. So let's see the extent to which I can work through these. If people aren't here, and I skip over them, I may be able to add more to the list, but I don't want to commit to that. Since I've already got such a long list already. So let's go through what we've got. Next will be Ayes Hares, followed by Jocelyn Anderson, Aura Jeter, Cosmic Melissa, Florisol, Starry Night, Anne's Human, Saretta, and Stormborn. So Ayes Hares is next. And so if you could post your question, and maybe you're typing, I don't want to rush you. Oh, is it up there already? Let me see if I can find it. Oh. So I'm looking for your question to see if it's earlier in the chat, and I'm not finding it immediately. I see where you said he has been following me for some time now. But I'm not seeing. Yeah, can you repost it? Okay, it's not just me missing it. Looks like other folks have checked, and I learned that the default for the chat is top chat only, and so I definitely have live chat up, which should show me everything. Okay, Z's feelings for you. All right, I see that. Okay, so you want to know Z's feelings for you, and then you put earlier that he's been following you for some time now. And do you mean like on social media? I hope we're not talking about a stalker. Yes. Okay. Insta. Okay. So there's a guy or a person, I should say. There's a person who's following you on Instagram and like seems like maybe you have a crush, an interest in him, and you want to know what are his feelings for you. Got it. Got it. All right. Here we go. All right. One more. Okay. Let's see what we get. First card down is the Tower, followed by Death. Huh. Followed by the Magician. So in the context of your question, I think the Tower is about there being contradictions or like a feeling perhaps like the persona that he or I forget what their initial was that Z has like presented is gonna crumble down if if he were to do anything about his um like to meet up with you or anything like that, to get close to you, right? So with the Tower here, it's kind of a stereotypical interpretation of it, but we could think about it as the ego, right? The way that we build ourselves up for others so that other people see us in a certain way, but it's not real, right? And so it would all have to come crumbling down. Uh, and so there's I, I think he kind of feels like if you're following each other on Instagram, the him that the persona that is fake, right? Because it's social media. And so, um, you know, with the magician, it's a trick, it's magic, it's an illusion. And that's I mean, I guess it's to some extent that's obvious. Um, but it's as though the way he's thinking about you is in terms of who he really is versus the trick that he plays and that everybody to some extent plays on their social media account, right? And so um, there's a sense of like feeling like wanting to cut out or stop the the faking it, right? So I guess a way to answer your question would be that there is an interest. He does have an interest. It is in his mind, the idea of like trying to show who he really is. But beyond that, um, that I feel like he feels like that's sort of the first step that he would have to make is to accept that the tower has to fall and sort of the magician personality has to die, and that's scary, right? Uh, the the tower moment is always scary, because it feels dangerous and it feels unsafe and feels insecure and all of that. So there's a lot of walls up that would need to be cut down, and he's thinking about that, but it also is something that he's kind of afraid of. Yeah. Yeah, you say he seems genuinely interested, and I think he would have to be if he's considering going through all of this to get closer, right? If he's willing to like let the tower fall and kill all the tricks, kill all the magic, the illusions rather, um, there would have to, and another way to say it is all three cards are from the major arcana. And so that's, major as opposed to minor. So you say he seems serious, and I think that that makes sense that he is serious. But there is also a feeling of like, um, what is going to happen when when the real me is revealed, right? So, um, I see you have another question. Is he a good person? I feel like I need to pull other cards for that. And I'm only going to have time today to just do one question per person. So I'd be happy to read on this person again at another date. Um, but just to make sure that I get as to everyone if possible. I mean, I know the chat is just really busy today, and I know there's a whole bunch of people who've requested readings, and um, so I want to be fair. I guess that's what I'm saying. So next on the list is Jocelyn Anderson. If Jocelyn is here, here's my list at the moment. Jocelyn Anderson, followed by Aura Jeter. And then next would be Cosmic Melissa. So Jocelyn, Aura, Cosmic Melissa, and then Flora Soul. All right, so then Starry Night. Okay, Aura Jeter. We've got Aura Jeter, so we'll do that next. So the question is, what is Baba's energy towards me? Okay. And is this a crush or someone you're dating or some other kind of relationship? Okay, you want him to manage you like professionally? Got it. Okay. So there you're an artist, there's someone that you are hoping will be your manager, but you want to know like what what is their energy towards you? Thank you, Aura. You like how I read. I'm glad to hear that. I know it's not for everyone, but that's why there's lots of different tarot readers. Okay, so what is Baba's energy towards you? We'll start with 3 cards, 10 wands, 3 wands, 8 coins. So if this person is someone who is maybe managing too many people right now, like there are too many sticks on the fire at the moment. And so it's as though what this person, Baba, wants is to thin that out and get down to a smaller, more focused grouping. That's the sense that I get. There's a sense of needing to focus so that instead of it being too busy, too oppressive, too many people, too much going on, wanting to like focus it down. And so I think that Baba is trying to determine, sort of metaphorically speaking, the value that um, you could contribute to this smaller or more focused, is a better way to put it, uh, team or project or enterprise, however we'd like to put it. So, like, to be totally real, uh, I think there is an element of him thinking about, well, or I don't know if it's a him. Um, yeah, you said him. Of him thinking about money, right? So 8, 8 coins. So, um, it's as though he does see that there is literal value there, right? And if we're talking about business, and um, it's the spread is saying, like, if there's a way that he could get things focused, then he thinks that it would absolutely be worth it to take you on, to manage you, right? Because there's more value created than the effort put into it. But right now, the effort outweighs the value. So if we think about it in terms of time left to right, it's like now and after that and after that. And so right now with the 10 of wands, it's like there's already he's got too much on his plate, sort of, so to speak. And so that needs to get focused down first before he can sort of invest in you, if that makes sense. So the answer to the question is, I think it's there's no trickery, there's no dishonesty. I mean, this is practical and it's about what the outcome, what the result will be for, um, well, for the both of you, but we're reading from his perspective mainly here, right? And so he does think that there's value, but there's like a paring down, a whittling down that needs to happen because he just has way too much on his plate right now. And so he needs to be able to focus before it makes sense to him to manage you also. Let's look at the bottom of the deck just to see if anything else comes out. 10 coins. So that's good. um, right? Like 10 coins is, well, it's money, it's brilliance, it's value, and it's like long term. Um, it's as much as you would have. So, um, there's no reason to be suspicious or, um, think that this is a backhanded kind of person, although I would imagine in any kind of performance or art, management kind of industry that you would get a lot of that. But I'm not seeing anything, there's no swords here, the magician's not here. Um, there's nothing to, like, beware of. He absolutely is thinking about you in practical and monetary terms, right? And I do think he sees you as a potentially valuable asset, uh, at some point, but I don't necessarily see that he sees it being practical right this moment because there's too many logs on the fire. Cool. You're so welcome. I hope that that's helpful. So yeah, he's it's all batons and coins. So it's all practical stuff, building stuff, getting value out of it. Okay, so Cosmic Melissa, you enjoy your day too, Aura. And good luck with everything getting a manager. So Cosmic Melissa would be next, followed by Flora Soul. Cosmic Melissa and then Florisol, if either of them are here. Thank you, Soretta. Takes practice too, which is part of the reason I'm here, for the practice. So Cosmic Melissa, Florisol, and then Starry Night. Starry Night. Okay, here we go for Starry Night. So, Starry Night says, what approach would get JP to communicate, trust me, and potentially want to be long term in distant future? Currently going through a lot, so I just gave space and left them alone. Okay. So, this person, JP, you sounds like you've dated in the past. And then they weren't communicating, they didn't trust you, and they didn't want to commit to a long-term future. And so you kind of turned away, left them alone, but you want to know what approach would get this person to kind of open up and trust you. So for this, I'm going to do a 5-card spread that forms a cross. And so the first 3 cards I'll lay horizontally, and those will represent you and JP's connection. And we'll look at it from his perspective, right? From what he's seeing, what is going on with the two of you. And then we'll lay 2 more cards, one above and one below, to form a cross. And the top card will indicate the best way of approaching. And the bottom card will be what not to do. And we'll read those cards in tandem. Okay, here we go for Starry Night. What approach would get JP to communicate, trust me, and potentially want to be long-term and distant future? It was complicated. There was attraction, but he's not over his ex. Okay, here we go. So, okay, 9 cups, 2 cups. And the Hanged Man or person. So, I'm just get a drink of water. So, these first 3 cards are from his perspective. And 9 cups means he sees things change or saw things changing very much for the better, leading to a union, right? 2 of cups. But the general situation couldn't be helped. There was nothing he could do about it. So like cups, Hanged Man is a lot of tender feeling that gets focused down, distilled even, but then stops, gets hung up, gets suspended, gets um, put on hold. And from his perspective, there was no way to stop that, right? The hanged one, this is like a situation that can't be helped. This is a feeling like someone else is responsible. Someone else did this to him. That's how he feels. I'm not saying it's true. uh, so, with your question, you're like wondering what would get him to open up and communicate, what would get him to trust more, what would get him to make a commitment. And from his perspective, uh, it's he doesn't seem to think that the issue is him. He seems to think the issue is the circumstances he's in, right? And that other people have created a situation that makes it impossible for him to communicate, makes it impossible for him to trust, makes it impossible for him to commit, right? So let's throw two more cards down, one above and one below. The top one will be the best thing you can do to address the situation, and the bottom will be the thing you should not do. So the top card is 5 cups. Bottom card is Knight of Coins. So for now, let me just look at these a moment. A lot of cups here. I mean, when I see the 5 of cups up there as what to do, and I compare it to how he feels about the situation, the first thing that comes to mind is like, just love him. Like, what this person needs is someone who will like grasp onto their heart, right? We've got the hands and then five fingers. I always think of the hand and grasping. So I think he needs like what would get him. Your question was what would get him to communicate and trust and all of that. You've sort of got to grab his heart, so to speak. As opposed to Knight of Coins, which would be practical about it, be slow and steady about it, just keep chipping away, a little bit at a time. Like, I kind of think that if you really want a relationship with this person, he kind of needs to be shaken out of it a little bit, not literally, right? But he feels like he's upside down and that there's nothing he can do. And so he needs some emotional upset, I think, to kind of change his perspective on that. Because I think that if you just keep plodding along, slow and steady, oh, I'll let me just, I'll wait and I'll take it slow. And I don't think he's ever going to change. I think what he needs is kind of a little bit of instability, so to speak, something to get him to recognize how important your feelings are for him, assuming that they are, right? And I think they are, otherwise you wouldn't be here asking the question. So this is not a slow and steady keep talking and like see how it goes situation, Knight of Coins. This is a grab his heart with your hand and squeeze it kind of situation. Like he needs to feel what you feel to such an extent that he feels compelled to do something about it as opposed to just hanging around. That's how I'd phrase it, I think. Okay, let's see. No, it wouldn't be about his ex because I didn't ask about the ex at all. Grab his heart is different for different people. That's true. He's a runner. What am I meant to chase him constantly? Well, maybe it's one-sided. Think he may still be into the ex, needs to heal from it. When you say he's a runner, do you mean literally like he's a runner, like his exercising his run, or do you mean like when people get close, he runs away from them? Like not literally running, but like he doesn't commit. Like when someone gets emotionally close, he just takes off. Yeah, people get close and he runs. Yeah. Yeah. And yet, I don't know if he understands that that's what's happening. Because when I see the hanged man here, like, look at the way with the hanged man that he's like shot with all the arrows, right? It's like from his perspective, again, not saying it's objectively true or anything like that, but it's like from his perspective, when people get close, it's like it hurts him. Like it's like getting shot with Cupid's arrow. And in some sense, it's like he's closing off because he's maybe more sensitive than than he knows what to do with. Um, I will say that with 5 of cups, cups I would say are gentle. And so it's like needing a gentle maybe grab is the wrong word. Maybe it's more like a gentle caressing. um, to sort of knock him off his feet a little, right? With 5, it's an unstable number. 4 is stable, and the 5 destabilizes the stability of the 4. And so, it's like he needs a little bit of a gentle instability to get him to recognize um, what you feel for him. So Starry Night says, he knows I like him. He's not stupid. But maybe tell him again. I guess that's how I might put it. Like, he knows it. He's not stupid, but maybe he needs to hear it. And maybe that would be enough to sort of, because another way of like comparing these two cards, 5 of cups and the Knight of Coins, is the Knight of Coins is really good at practically like going through the motions and keep plodding along, and whatever they were doing yesterday is what they do today, and they keep going after the coin and they get the coin, and then they keep going and they get another coin, and on and on and on. But you don't want the coin, you want the cups. And so with the 5, it's like you've got to do something that's kind of uncomfortable. Or if not necessarily uncomfortable, but like unstable a little bit. You've got to, whatever pattern it is you've been doing, you've got to do something else. Knight of Coins at the bottom here is saying, like, don't keep doing what you've been doing. Don't do what's safe. Don't do what's conservative. Don't do what, like, makes sense intellectually. Do the thing that destabilizes the heart. In other words, even if he knows intellectually that you like him, he might need to feel it. Um, and to some extent, I'm sure he does. But maybe he needs something that will sort of jolt him a little bit so that he can stop being the hanged man and do something, or not, right? Like, it's also possible that he's going to do what he's going to do and that he's satisfied hanging upside down and hanging around. And if that's true, there's nothing you can do about it. But, the question we asked the cards was, what is the best action you could take? And that's the answer. Don't keep doing what you've been doing, but like try to um, destabilize in a good way the emotional dynamics of the situation. But whenever I see the hangman come up in a spread, and this is the only major arcana we've got here, and with this card, sometimes it's like right now, maybe things are just going to hang around. The situation can't be helped. So you could, if you feel like it's worth it, you could try to influence the situation by showing maybe some of your own emotional vulnerability to try to grab or caress his heart a little bit. And it might work and it might not. He might respond to it and he might not. But the cards are saying what's definitely not going to work is just plodding along and doing whatever's happened before. Okay, let's see what we've got here. That was Starry Night. So next up would be Anne's Human. If Anne's Human is here. Oh yeah, don't feel stupid. I would not, yeah, I mean, I'm just reading back through the chats that came through while I was reading. Whoops. Yeah. I mean, yeah, don't be a stalker. For sure, don't be a stalker. If you think that it's worth it to give it another gentle, because it's cups, gentle push. And the other thing that I'm thinking of with the Knight of Coins down here is, if there's any way of reaching him that is not in sending a message, like that is not a social media or that is not a text, Um, and maybe there isn't, and then that would be tricky. But you said you'd messaged him before, and so I don't know if there's, I don't know like what the circumstance or dynamic is, but if there's any way of interacting with this person that is not just through digital means, I think it would be good to try that. And maybe there is, and maybe there's not, you know. Okay, so next up, Anne's Human, followed by Saretta, followed by Stormborn. And welcome to anyone who might be joining. My name's Will of the Hermit's Lantern Tarot, and I'm doing some free live readings today. So, here's what I'm going to do. Oh, here's Saretta. Great. Okay. All right, Saretta. We'll read for Saretta, whose question is, what can I expect for the month of February? Am I vibrationally aligned with my dreams and aspirations? Okay. So we'll start with 3 cards. Okay. What can Saretta expect for the month of February? Is Saretta vibrationally aligned with their dreams and aspirations? Three cards to start. 7 coins. Queen of Wands. 10 coins. Okay. So there might be some financial struggle or a financial challenge that comes up, but you're going to be able to overcome it without problems. Sevens are an obstacle or a challenge, but that ending up with 10 is great. There's no need to worry. You may need to work at it, but you're going to be fine. This obviously is you, the Queen of Wands in the middle. And so you're showing up as someone who's patient, understanding, and who has wisdom about how to direct her efforts and energy in a way that, number one, will get things done that need to get done in a practical kind of way, but that number two will allow her some time to rest, right? To the point where she might be looking for, like, what's the next project to do, right? Uh, so, first part of your question, what can you expect for the month of February? Perhaps a little financial struggle, which is going to turn out fine. That's one. The other way to read the coins here, if we're not speaking specifically about finances, would be um, some trouble directing your energy, right? A challenge or an obstacle in the way that you are directing your energy, trying to get it from point A to point B. It's going maybe a little bit haywire, but you will be able to overcome that and end up with a big sack of coins, which could be money or could metaphorically just mean like you're getting brilliant results. You're getting the results that you want because you're embodying the Queen of Wands, who's patient, understanding, and like knows when and where to put her efforts in, right? So no major upsets. I would say definitely um, US if you're vibrationally aligned with your dreams and aspirations. And I think what we're seeing here is there will be a challenge regarding that you will overcome, right? So it's not like totally smooth sailing. There's a little hiccup in the road, but it's nothing you can't handle. Just think about that Queen of Wands. Queen of Wands energy is how you will overcome that obstacle and turn your 7 coins into a nice even 10. Let's look. Sarita wants to know what kind of challenge. I'm just going to look at the bottom of the deck, see what that tells us. 3 swords. So with 3 swords, you can expect something to do. A couple things it could be. Number one, traditionally, this is the card of loss. So some kind of loss. Uh, it could just be small annoyances or aggravations that you're feeling in life, like something in life that it's not that bad, but it's kind of adding up, like it's just kind of irking you, getting you, and that's throwing you off. And so you'll need to be patient and understanding with it and wise about where you direct your energy. Like, for example, um, if the little annoyances are something that you can ignore or that you can walk away from or that you can, I don't know, play some music, right? Uh, you'll be able to get over them. Well, okay. Soretta, I'm looking at the chat. Soretta says that's like heartbreak. So, yes, in some systems it is, especially the Rider-Waite-Smith system. There's the big heart on the 3. This is a Marseille deck, and so there's no heart on here on this particular deck. Um, but it could refer to a loss. So it could refer to um, like a relationship loss of some kind. But it doesn't have to. In a rider deck, it would be more likely to because that's what the image is. But here there's no necessary reason to read it that way. And 3 of swords can just mean little things that bug you, little things that are getting on your nerves, adding up. And the other thing I'd say, so like think of it this way, because I think the numbers are very important. Um, Three swords is less than 7 coins, and it's less by a lot than 10 coins. So, like, the troubles are only at a magnitude of 3, right? And maybe they add up and change to a magnitude of 7 coins that are sort of off balance because it's a 7. Uh, but the Queen of Wands can still handle it, right? And she turns all that into 10. The other way to think about this would be the way that 3 and 7 add up to 10, right? And so it's like, um, you've got a certain quantity of resources already, although maybe they're unbalanced, and you're able to turn the the little troubles that come along to your favor, to your advantage, so that everything adds up to 10 by the end of the month. Good, I'm glad. Yeah, it's not, um I mean, I don't know if I've said this on the channel before, but, like, so I started reading with the Rider-Waite-Smith deck like most tarot readers do, and I love the Rider-Waite-Smith deck, but I find it a little kind of reductive. I find that the images, Pixie's images, which are iconic and beautiful and wonderful, and I am not disparaging them. I love them. But I find, at least for me personally, that it can be a little tough to sort of shoehorn the image into the context of the question, which is why I personally prefer Marseille style decks and pip decks, because I find that for me, they offer a wider range of meanings, which helps me be more specific to the specific question that I'm asked, the particular question that I'm asked. So that's just my own thing. I'm not saying that other people should or shouldn't do anything, but I like, just because the 3 of swords comes up in this deck, I don't think means that there's necessarily heartbreak. Although, yes, it's true that that is one possible interpretation of the card, especially with the Rider deck. Okay, so whoops. That was Saretta. So here's what we're gonna do. Let me look at my list. Is Stormborn here? Because I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna sort of do a last call for who's currently on my list. And if you're here, I'll read for you. If you're not, I'm gonna call it for this list. And then what I think I'll do is sort of reopen the list for whoever is here and do a few more readings. I'm at about 2 hours now, so it's time to start thinking about winding down. Um, so that's what I'm gonna do. So, I'm gonna call off everyone on the list that I haven't read for yet, and this is your opportunity. So Jocelyn Anderson, Cosmic Melissa, Flora Soul, Anne's Human, and Stormborn. So if any of those folks are here, otherwise I'm going to reopen the list. So let's see. Okay, so I know I missed tons and tons of chats. I can't keep up with them all. But what I'm going to do is just look at most recently who's requested. And so the Storytime Kitchen. And Devaney Strickland. Okay, Mulberry Twist. Tori Marie. Oh, Stormborn's here. Okay, so we'll read for Stormborn. Okay. So okay. So we'll do Stormborn, Storytime Kitchen, Devaney Strickland, Mulberry Twist, and Tori Marie. So Stormborn wants to know, will I find a good live-in nanny soon that will work for my family? Okay. Stormborn's, yes, I do remember the reading yesterday. Stormborn says my current babysitter didn't show up for care. That's the tower. Yikes. So should we put another, you said soon. Are you hoping like within 1 month, 2 months, 3? One month. All right. So within the next month, beginning of March, will Stormborn find a good live-in nanny that will work for her family? Okay, let's see what we get. We'll do 3 cards. 8 coins. The Chariot. Lovers. Let me look at this a moment. Okay. Okay. So, 8 of coins here I would read as needing a change of plans or a change of idea or, let me think a minute. With the chariot in the middle, the chariot sometimes doesn't know if it's coming or going. And so when we're trying to figure out, are you going to find someone? And you've disclosed that the people you found are not always so reliable, right? And so seeing the chariot, especially next to the lovers, I'll talk about the lovers in a moment. Um, the chariot, like, are they coming to you or are they going away from you? And it's ambiguous. In other spreads, it might be less ambiguous, but seeing it next to the lovers makes it ambiguous, which is why it's saying, like, that stable, steady person who's gonna move in with you and take care of the kids and that you'll be able to afford and will solve all the problems. I don't think that that's this person. The lovers, we were just talking about the Rider-Waite deck a moment ago, and so, in many interpretations, the Lovers card, is about like a love affair, right? Like a long-term partnership. I don't read it that way often in Marseille style decks like this one. It's for me more about having to make a choice and feeling hesitant or ambivalent. Like, should I do this or should I do that? And so you can imagine this person in the middle is like, is it this one? Is it that one? Like, which way do I go? I'm waiting for Cupid up above to shoot me with an arrow and make my decision for me um, because I don't know what to do. I want to just be done with this and have the decision made for me. And so with this lovers card, I tend to read it as being much more about uncertainty and ambivalence and hesitation, that kind of thing. And so seeing these two cards together, um, doesn't give me a sense. Like, what I'd love to see, to answer yes to your question, is like a 4 of coins or a 4 of cups or an emperor or an empress might work. Um, but seeing these, it seems to suggest someone who's coming and going and hesitant and ambivalent, and like sometimes they're there and sometimes they're not. So it's not like there's nobody, but I don't think that it's the kind of stable live-in person, especially when you're asking about a live-in nanny. This person's in their car, which doesn't make me think they're living with you. This is someone who's moving around, right? As opposed to like living in the home. Um, so we put a time limit on this by March, and oh, good, you're currently interviewing a bunch. That's fantastic. Um, Yeah, I mean, my inclination is to think there's not the kind of stability that I think you're after. With the 8 of coins, it's like you're investing energy and money in this, and either someone drives up, so to speak, but then kind of is hesitating, or you're ambivalent about this person, even if maybe when they were coming towards you with their shiny armor and their big chariot, it looked good. Anytime I see the lovers ending the string, it's like, let's look at the surprise card. Oh, well, that does give a different spin to things because now we have our four. So with four, four cups is this is comfort, this is stability, this is family, this is the home. So that changes things a bit. Seeing this card in the picture, um, I I would change my interpretation a little to add two things. One, how do I say this? 8 coins, 4 cups. You pay 8 coins to get 4 cups. So this could mean that it's like twice as much money as you're comfortable with. Like it's more expensive than, and it may not be actually twice as much, but I'm just reading the numbers. Uh, more money than you had expected to spend or that you would be comfortable spending. And that may play into why there's hesitation or ambivalence, right? Like this person drives in, but then the dynamic is a little uncertain. Okay, let me look at the chat. They will be coming from a different country. Okay. Maybe it's a temporary position. Yeah, it could be. Yeah, and a lot more money. Yeah. Okay. So these, yeah, these are all things that you kind of know. So seeing this, but it was the surprise card. So it was like on the surface, it didn't seem like it was going to happen. When I flipped the deck over, the surprise, the thing you didn't expect, the thing you didn't know, it's like, oh, there it is. So I think it's going to be that kind of a situation where they might kind of fall into your lap from somewhere you're not expecting or like in a way that you're not expecting. Um, which can, so like, don't be too surprised if it doesn't work out in exactly the way you're anticipating that it's going to work out. Another thing to think. Okay, so if this person shows up as the chariot, they drive into your life, which means they can just drive out of it again, but it doesn't mean that they will. Um, especially if you're paying them 8 coins. And think about the way that very, very subtly the figure on the chariot card has their head tilted this direction. So they've got their eyes a little bit, it's a job. So they've got their eyes on these coins, which makes sense, right? Um, people work for money. That's how it works. And that's, I'm not making a value judgment there. You see it more obviously with the horses looking to the left. But if they drive in, they can also drive away. And so it could be that they are ambivalent about staying. So because the 4 of Cups shows up, I do think there's a good chance that you're going to find someone. But I think you're also right to say, like, are they going to stick around for a long period of time? And of course, again, since it was the surprise card, they might show up as a kind of surprise. That's what I call the card on the bottom of the deck, the surprise card. Okay, so I wish you the best of luck interviewing these people. I hope that you can find someone that works and who sticks around. That would be great. You're welcome. So that was Stormborn. Next, we have Storytime Kitchen. Okay, and here we go. Storytime Kitchen. Let's see. Earlier, I'd read about the possibility of your person being in another relationship. I got Three of Swords, Knight of Wands, Page of Cups, and that resonated. She's younger. He's a player. Knight of Wands, yeah, can be a player. Someone who's a little reckless with their wand, so to speak. And he was rebounding from us. That could be Three Swords. Okay, glad to hear that that reading resonated. Now we want to know from his perspective how he views the two connections respectively, the one with me versus the one with her. And where that connection with the younger person might go. Okay, so we'll do 3 cards for each. We'll do 3 cards from his perspective for him and you, and 3 cards from his perspective for him and this other person. And welcome to anyone who might be joining. I'm Will from the Hermit's Lantern Tarot. I'm reading for Storytime Kitchen right now, and then Devaney will be up, followed by Mulberry Twist, and then Tori Marie. And then depending on if those people are here for their reading or not, I may or may not reopen the list. Hi, Tori. Hi, Devaney. Ugh. Storytime Kitchen. That sounds awful. Storytime Kitchen says, I was speaking to him for 2 years and thought we were building towards something meaningful, before he abruptly hooked up with this younger woman. Oh, I'm not judging you. I was judging him. Nope, I'm not judging you. I was judging him. That was my tone. Was, why do they have to do that? Okay. Here we go. 3 cards from his perspective for him and you. Those will be first 3, second 3 for him and the other person. Okay. Okay. So Pope S, Devil, 4 cups. And then Queen of Swords, 10 swords, Queen of Cups. Oh dear. Well, so we're thinking about how he views things, right? The Devil in the center over here and the 10 of Swords in the center over here both are causes for concern. Let's start over here. Let's start with what he thinks of this other person. I think he's trying to change her from a Queen of Swords into a Queen of Cups. So the Queen of Swords, he sees her as someone who uh, is strong and to the point where like he wants to almost overpower. Swords are what we go to war with. And so I wouldn't be at all surprised if there were lots of arguments in his interactions with this person, if there was lots of aggression, contrariness, like bickering, fighting, that kind of thing. And he's trying to kind of wear her down or exhaust her so that she just become not just so that she becomes a nurturing, empathetic, good time Queen of Cups person who can take care of him. That's what he thinks, right? We're reading from his perspective. What is his perspective, his viewpoint on this? And so, like, it's almost like from his perspective, they're kind of at war. This card I often think of as the card of war. Like he's at war to transform her from one to the other. The only other possible way I could read this, which wouldn't strictly speaking go along with the question we asked, but you did mention he's a player. And so my other thought would be like, is there any chance that there are two other women, a Queen of Swords and a Queen of Cups? And then it's less about um, him trying to transform the Queen of Swords into the Queen of Cups, but that actually he's on the battlefield with both of them. But that's not what we asked. We didn't ask if there's more than one other person. We asked, how does he view his connection with this one other person, right? And so, reading it in terms of being one other person, it would have to be changing her from the one who wields a sword to the one who offers a cup. Okay. So that's one side of this. The other side is how does he view his connection with you? Um, and so with the Popess is quiet, knowledgeable. She can be bookish. She has her book here. She might be a reader. She might be a writer. She might be kind of intellectual. Um, or she might be interested in things like tarot cards, for example. Um, and the Popess is kind of hard to get to know, to get close to. That's represented on the card in the way that she's very covered up. She's got lots of robes, and there's a veil behind her, and the hat or the crown on. And so there's a little bit of feeling like um, she's not gonna sort of go to war with him in the way that a Queen of Swords would, for example, right? Why anybody would want to go to war in a relationship, I don't know, but apparently he does. So he sees you as someone who kind of won't play that game. Like the Pope, if he is the kind of person who's wanting to change a Queen of Swords into a Queen of Cups, he looks at you as the Pope as there's no way she's changing. She is who she is, right? And so that may be part of, from his perspective, part of the issue. On the other hand, he sees you as someone he is enthralled with, like he can't totally seem to get away. He's chained to you, so to speak. So, uh, even though and maybe it's because you are so much yourself that you won't change, maybe without him even knowing it, maybe there's something about that that he finds enticing, finds, um, attractive, right? Uh, and then the string of cards for you ending with 4 cups again, this is comfort, stability, family, home. Um, it can sometimes also mean like there's not enough change happening, almost like it's too stable or too comfortable. Um, and reliable might be a way of putting it. Uh, but apparently, he finds the the chaos and craziness of going into the battlefield and trying to change this other person. There's something to him that he finds alluring about it because he thinks it's going to turn out where he gets the Queen of Cups. And let me tell you, I doubt that it's going to turn out the way that he's anticipating. I mean, it won't. Like the Queen of Swords putting down her sword and picking up a cup, forget it. Forget it. So it's kind of an illusion I think he's living under, right? And with you, while he does feel enthralled and bonded and like you're still he still feels attached to you, I think he knows he can't change you. And that's I mean, he needs to figure himself out. He needs to figure out that relationships are not about creating the person that you want to be with, but for being with them because of who they already are. Now I'm judging him again. All right, let me look at the chat. Yeah, I mean, you are the high priestess, and that's a good thing to be. I mean, in fact, I was doing a reading for myself earlier today about something that I won't get into, and the high priestess came up for me and in the position of like saying to me, you need to be more like the high priestess. And so, um, and that says to me, like, either you already know everything you need to know, or you can learn what you need to know. It's in your book, or it's in your cards, or it's in your writing, or it's in whatever it is you're doing that might be represented by the book. Um, but the priestess or the popess, she sits and silently knows. She has y it's not like she's necessarily deliberately keeping secrets in a malicious kind of way, but, like, she has knowledge that other people don't have access to, and she doesn't feel the need to, like, go out on the street with a megaphone and yell it at everybody. Um, she writes it down in her book. She reads it, and she records it, and I often think it's a good way to be. He thinks I'm a witch. Storytime Kitchen says he thinks I'm a witch. Well, yeah, I mean, there you go. What's wrong with that? Yeah. Okay. So, let me check this off and see what else do we have here. Saying which literally we could check. That was the third part of my question. I also hope that you hope you find some peace in this situation. You know, we can hope that this guy sort of sorts himself out. Storytime Kitchen says that was the last thing he said to me. Are you a witch? Yeah, I mean, and this is maybe that scares him because what that discloses is that he sees you having, even if he was joking a little, he sees you as having a particular kind of power that doesn't make sense to him, right? And that's exactly what the Popess card is signifying. She has a knowledge or a power that the rest of the world, it's not like the Pope where it's institutionalized and it's organized and people sometimes even follow it if they don't totally believe. It's just part of the society or the culture. The Popess is outside of that. She has a knowledge that doesn't fit into what everybody else believes, right? And he might find that very enthralling, right? There could be something about that that's actually attractive to him, which is why it sounds like the two of you were talking for a couple of years. But it also might scare him. Yeah. And if he meets someone else who maybe is a queen of swords, but who's not a quote unquote witch from his perspective, maybe he thinks that he can change that person into a nurturing, mothering kind of type. I think that's totally misguided, but there we see it. So okay, so let's move on to the next question, reading, and so it will be Devaney Strickland, followed by Mulberry Twist and Tori Marie. So Devaney is next. And welcome to anyone who might be joining. My name is Will of the Hermit's Lantern Tarot, and I'm doing some free readings today. Please consider liking and subscribing. If you subscribe, it's a little easier to tell when I'm doing lives, or at least when I have one scheduled. And I don't have the list open right now. I might reopen it depending on whether the folks that are currently on the list are available still or not. Okay. Storytime Kitchen says he said he thought I was. Oh, he said he thought I said I was. But never mind. I said that he didn't want to bother to dignify that with a response. Okay. So I won't be back tomorrow, but I'm planning this weekend. Probably Sunday. But I will post it. Oops. I will do my best. I'm trying to be better about scheduling them in advance instead of just spontaneously jumping on. So stay tuned for more. Okay, so let me find Devaney's question. Okay, there it is. Can you please tell me if I will come into a large sum of money this year? Okay, let's see. So we're looking at the rest of 2026 from a settlement. Okay. All right. So this is a straightforward one. We're hoping for coins. I'll pull 3 cards. Okay, let's see what we get for Devaney Strickland. Will a large sum of money show up in 2026? All right, the Empress, the Magician, Queen of Wands. I'm going to pull another one because I want to see what the Queen is looking at. The Emperor. And let's see what the bottom of the deck is. Oh my goodness, it's the King of Coins. So I wonder, with this settlement, are there like a lot of people involved? We've just got people, 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 people. So, a couple things I'll point out. Empress and Emperor are sort of bookending the situation. And in between them, we've got a Magician and a Queen of Wands. You're suing your landlord. Got it. So, Emperor is landlord. Almost certainly. Seeing the Magician suggests that there's tricks happening. Something tricky. Obviously, the card, in order to answer your question as a definitive, resounding, unambiguous yes, I would want to see a bunch of coins cards. And they don't come up except we have a court card holding a coin. It's the King of Coins, but it's a surprise card, which means it's like a surprise. Not at all clear where it came from or that it was going to be there at all. But then suddenly it kind of unexpectedly shows up. I kind of like this is suggesting to me that there's not an ending happening to the situation, that it's still in progress, probably because of something tricky to do here. I think you are likely showing up as the Queen of Wands. With the, facing the Emperor. But then back here, we've got something tricky happening. And the Empress suggesting that, with the Empress, I think about the way in which the Empress governs indirectly, like has to go through other people. Maybe that's a lawyer type, in order to get things done, right? But it all seems to like still be happening. There's all of these different personages, characters who are attempting to exercise agency over the situation. And there's like not an outcome yet. So I wouldn't expect that you're going to suddenly come into a big sum. But King of Coins as a surprise card, the King of Coins does possess a coin, right? And not only a coin, but in this particular deck, there's like looks like a basket of food, right? So like resources that we could call it. And so there may be a surprise that comes up unexpectedly, but right now it's like there's so much going on, so many different people attempting to exert power and agency in this situation, that it's not obvious or certain that a big unexpected sum of money is gonna come into your lap. I'd put it like that. I would also say watch out for tricks behind your back. Right? It's almost like, okay, here you are, Queen of Wands. You're face to face with the landlord who's done you wrong already, and everybody knows it, and yet you have to go through legal channels to make it right. The Emperor can get the Empress, which isn't necessarily like a spouse or anything, but the Empress is the one who is on equal footing with the Emperor, but can sort of influence things in indirect ways. The Emperor is the one who, like, holds up the scepter and makes edicts and commands and sends out the army and all of that, right? The Empress is the one who works behind the scenes. She talks to people at social situations. She influences things subtly, right? As opposed to like commanding them. And seeing her next to the magician does tricks and distractions and makes you look in one direction while he's doing something else up here. And what's he have hiding under the table? Watch out for that thing, you know? So, so there's, they may not be playing fair. I would, I would keep my eyes peeled. Ew, a lot of mold in your unit. That's gross. I'm sorry. Oh, and it made your son sick. That's terrible. Oh no. So you asked, should I get a new lawyer? Uh, we didn't ask that, so I feel like I would want to pull new cards to answer it, and I'm going to stick to just one question per person today. But I will say that based on the cards here, it's not like clearly saying that that's something that you should do. But that would be worth reading for. Okay, so Mulberry Twist, I think, is next. And then Tori Marie. You're very welcome, Devaney. I'm really sorry you had to deal with that. I haven't had to deal with mold in an apartment, but I had flooding once that was a nightmare. Okay, so Mulberry Twist, if you're here, I'll read for you, but Tori Marie is here. So Tori, if you Mulberry Twist is here. Okay, so Mulberry Twist, if you'd like to post your question, I'll read for you, and then Tori Marie after that. You're welcome. Okay. So Mulberry Twist is in a no contact situation with someone. Is a reunion in the cards? And if so, will it be mutually beneficial? Okay. And trying to think about I like to think about things from particular people's perspectives. So, are we thinking from this other person's perspective? Like, does this other person think that a reunion is possible? Because presumably you already know from your own perspective what you think about that. Um, so we could phrase it as like, does this other person think that a reunion is possible? Okay. See what you think. Okay. Because the other way we could phrase it is like, do you or your higher self or fate or however you want to put it um, think that a reunion is possible? But if it's more useful to think from his perspective, then we can do that. Okay, so let's see. We'll do 3 cards. Okay, let's do spirit guides. I think that maybe is more in line with what you were originally asking. Okay, so according to your spirit guides, is a reunion between you and this other person in the cards, so to speak? Okay. Oh. Oh, Mulberry Twist says, I think I know what they will say. Let's ask what he would say. Okay, great. Good. I will say that this sort of like playing around with the question and volleying it back and forth and doing a little revision, I think it's really useful. I think it's like part of what makes tarot so valuable is actually just asking the right question and figuring out like, what do I really want to know, right? So this is good. Okay, so from his perspective, is a reunion in the cards? Nope, you're not a jerk. All right, let's see. From his perspective, is a reunion in the cards? Okay, we'll do 3 cards, 5 coins. Oh, Knight of Cups. The Pope, and then I want to see what the Pope is looking at. 3 swords. So this three swords at the end complicates things, but the first part of the spread says that he can absolutely imagine sort of coming back and offering something to you again. Knight of Cups. This is the the classic romantic knight in shining armor kind of figure who rides in on his fancy horse and holds up the Holy Grail and makes an offering of love, right? And is making it in the direction of 5 coins, which makes me think of, like, getting one's hand on something valuable. Um, this center coin that's, like, so shiny and different from the other coins, and it's like 5 fingers, 5 grasping it, right? Um, but so it's the answer to your question is kind of yes, but from his perspective, he's definitely thought about it or thinking about it. Like, it's something that has definitely crossed his mind. Here's the but. It's the Pope and 3 swords. And with the Pope, we think about, um, a couple things. One, getting a blessing from someone else. That's what one of the things the Pope can do is can bless, not necessarily literally, but, like, getting someone else to tell him it's a good idea. That's one. You can see the way in which on the Pope card, we have the Pope figure, and then we see the backs of 2 other figures below, sort of asking for the blessing, like asking for something to be consecrated, someone who can tell him it's a good idea, right? Like someone who can offer advice and say, "This is, you should go back to that person. You should go do that." Um, but what is the Pope? The Pope is actually blessing is not a new relationship or returning to relationship. It's the 3 swords, and the 3 swords, as I said earlier, can mean a loss. That's possible. So, like, blessing the loss would be sort of consecrating it, ritualizing it, and saying, that is how it should be. Um, Another way of reading it would be if obviously you broke up for some reason, and so the sharpness that caused the breakup, there could be a sense that that's still there. Whatever it was that caused things to go bad for the two of you um, isn't gone, right? And so that may be the thing that is stopping him from seriously considering going back or coming back, depending on how you think of it. So, yes, it is within the realm of possibility, but there are reasons why it, at the end of the day, doesn't seem to be um, on the agenda, even if it's imagined as a possibility. Like maybe it could be an actual third party, like it could be a person who he goes to for advice about, it could be a friend or anyone who he thinks is um, knowledgeable about how people ought to do things. And so it's possible that it's an actual person, right? It could also be more abstractly something to do with um, not necessarily a single person, but like the way he understands or has internalized um, what the right and proper and thing to do is, right? So it might not be a specific individual represented by the Pope. It could also be um, his ideas about like sort of an institution's ideas about what would be the right thing to do, what would be the blessed, consecrated, correct thing to do. But if you broke, so you parted because of a third party, but this person I wouldn't be um the Pope wouldn't represent like another love interest. It would represent more like it could be, for example, if if his father told him, "I don't think you should go out with that person," that would make sense here. But it wouldn't be like another love interest. The Pope wouldn't represent another love interest. But it could represent a friend or a parent or his church or um, knowledgeable Uncle Bob, or like it could be anything like that, but it wouldn't refer to like someone else he's dating. His sacrament is being afraid of commitment. That's what Mulberry Twist says. Wow, what a beautiful way to put it. um, that's interesting that you say that because we see Knight of Cups with his sacrament, the cup, turning away from the one who would bless a commitment, who would bless a and consecrate like a long-term steady official union, and they're facing away from each other. I mean, I think the cards support that. Like support the idea that he's afraid of um or inclined to turn away from commitment. And that's also true even without the Pope. The Knight of Cups is or can be a very romantic kind of type, but not steady long term necessarily. The Knight of Cups likes to go with the flow. We see the water on the card. And they like to do what feels good, and they like to indulge themselves, but it doesn't mean that they're going to stick around, So just the fact of him showing up as the Knight of Cups at all is also supporting the idea that while he might be there to offer his cup, that doesn't mean he'll be there in the morning, you know? That would be more like a Knight of Coins type or, well, any of the other knights. This is the Knight of Cups is in some ways the least dependable, even though they can be the most, um, romantic, because the Knight of Cups, flows into your life and then flows out again. We could look at the surprise card and see what that brings us. It's the star. So, I was going to say one thing, but we're reading from his perspective. So, from his perspective, look at the way that in order to answer the question in the affirmative, what we really want is two people who are looking at each other, right? Or something close to that. And with the star is about in my reading of it in the Marseille Tarot is about release. Like, and it's liquid, it's water again, right? Like pouring oneself out, emptying oneself out, but also being solo. So, yeah, maybe they're looking at each other with how I've placed it. I mean, they're looking in the same direction, the Pope, Hierophant, and the star. They are looking in the same direction. Um, but the Pope doesn't get married, right? The Pope doesn't make a long-term love commitment. The Pope can consecrate others' commitments. Um, but the Pope, I believe, is supposed to be celibate, right? Um, oh no, it's okay. Don't feel like you're interrupting. Yeah, so the question asked was whether or not, from his perspective, it's in the cards that um, the two of you would get together again. That was the question. And the answer seems to be that even though he sees it as like something he considers or has considered, because these cards are more in the past, that going forward in the future, I think there's more a sense of release and loss than anything else. So that makes me sort of say yes, but kind of no. Maybe that's not a satisfying answer, and maybe it's because um, he hasn't decided, right? Like it was within his realm of possibility, but then it's kind of passing away, so to speak. Something he feels that he's lost, or something he feels that he's trying to release, as opposed to like an absolute certainty, something that he wants to, like that you're going to get a phone call tomorrow or something. Yes, Pope is male and Star is female, but Pope is also celibate. Right. So like I think maybe what we're looking at is, and you could read it this way. Um, does the Knight of Cups turn into the Pope? Right? That would be the other thing to consider, is like, well, isn't it possible that this guy who is so romantic now turns into the traditional type who um, follows the rules and um, is ready to make a commitment. But the thing about that is, you know, think about the cultural function of someone like the Pope, and um, you're not going to marry the Pope. You know, you'd get married by the Pope, but the Pope is not the one you would look to for a long-term romantic commitment. Yeah, in this deck particularly, the star is kind of post-human. There's a In this deck, there's a kind of, which I sort of like, a sci-fi, android kind of a thing going on, which is kinda cool. Um, I mean, you can also think of the star is sort of a naked woman, right? Um, and so, thinking of it that way, it might be the kind of there's an interesting tension there, because I'm thinking about what you are posting in the chat, which is contributing to the reading in really interesting ways. Like, aren't the Pope and the star looking at each other? They kind of are, right? They're certainly looking in the same direction, right? But what's the Pope doing looking at a naked woman? Right? That doesn't make me comfortable, right? Um, Almost like giving a sense of um, something that really he shouldn't be doing, right? If we're doing the version of the reading where the Knight of Cups turns into a pope, and he's sort of giving up, and he's supposed to be celibate, then why is he looking at the naked woman, right? And so if I were to tease that out in response to your question, I might say something like, um, he feels like it's off limits, it's forbidden, going back to you, starting things up with you would be like the Pope looking at a naked woman, a nude woman, um, with 3 swords between them. And so it is, I suppose in that sense, there's a way of reading this in which his thoughts about going back to you are kind of enticing, but also, like, the idea of going back to you seems enticing, but also kind of forbidden, right? Like, for one reason or another, he feels like he shouldn't, uh, and maybe also that's part of what creates the allure. Hmm. You say he seems rather stuffy, but the reality is quite different. Interesting. Like, he seems like a pope on the outside, but maybe inside he's more a Knight of Cups. So let's see. Tori, if you are here, you will be next on my list. That was a really interesting reading, Mulberry Twist. I like the way we both sort of. I like when the querents contribute because it gives me more things to think about. Um, if he is, this is the last thing I'll say about it, and then I'm going to do Tori's reading. If he is someone who on the outside is a pope, but on the inside is a Knight of Cups, he needs to figure himself out a little bit, right? Um, because these two are so antithetical to one another. If on the outside he's like conservative and follows the rules and enforces the rules and seems maybe a little holier than thou, but then underneath it all, what he really wants is to ride off on his horse and have a good time with his cup. Um, it's likely that he needs to figure out how to integrate these different parts of his personality, um, or he's never going to know what he really wants. Okay. Tori is next. Tori asks, "Hi, thank you. I have had a very hard past 2 years, a lot of loss, grief, and challenges, kind of one obstacle after another. What does Spirit want me to know about 2026? What to let go of or to let in?" Okay. I actually like the way you phrased particularly that last part of your question. And so after New Year's, I was doing a spread, I guess you'd call it, for the new year, three cards for what to embrace and three cards for what to let go of. So I think that would fit well with what you're asking, Tori. So we'll do three cards for Tori that represent. Let's start with what to let go of. Let's start with that. The first three down are what to let go of, and then the second three are what to embrace instead for the upcoming year. Okay. All right, first three, what to let go of. 7 Cups, the Chariot, and 6 Swords. Three cards, what to embrace. 8 Coins, 9 Cups, and 7 Coins. Okay. So, what to let go of? 7 Cups I think of in terms of heartache or a discontent heart, emotional discontent, an uneasy heart, that kind of thing. So, emotional pain, well, or not pain so much as challenges or discomfort that might lead you towards driving or heading down a path in which you feel like you have to have your armor on, maybe that you're always looking back, and that really means you're going the wrong direction. the Six of Swords is can mean going backwards. And I think in this context, it's like the road that's going the wrong way. Sometimes it can mean backing out of something. If there's any way in which you feel like um, that emotional discomfort is driving you to back out of something in your life, this is saying to let go of that. And I'm also reading with an eye towards what we see over here that in some sense, there's a way in which avoiding not pain, but discomfort, there's a way in which avoiding discomfort or challenge or uneasiness can kind of make things worse. And so I would say watch out or make an effort to to avoid avoiding things. If by avoiding things, it actually just ends up being worse than it would have otherwise been. So that's one thing. What to embrace instead, um, 8 coins we could think of in terms of, sometimes it's okay to do things like other people do them. So with 8s, I think about, groups of people. It can also be groups of thoughts. And with coins, I think about what you value. I think about what your resources are. I do think about money, although your question wasn't about money in any practical sense, so I'm not sure that that applies. And I think about thoughts, right? So you can see in this particular card too, there's the way in which um, the coins have little gears on them, little gears that turn like cogs in a machine, right? And so, in some sense, what this card is asking you to do is to find a way of organizing your life, even if it is doing it just because it's the way that other people are doing it. That might, for now, um, lead you to quite a whole lot of happiness. 9 cups. Like if you can invest in cautiously and prudently organizing your life, it's, you see the way that it's so everything is symmetrical here and everything lines up, right? And like every gear lines up with every other gear. That if you invest in that, it's going to pay off with even more pleasure or happiness or good times than what you put into it, right? You invest 8 coins in being organized and um, cautiously, prudently arranging your life, and you get 9 cups out of that. It's like you get a bonus cup, right? It's not just a one-for-one exchange. And to return back to these 3 via the 7 of coins, you need to embrace when um, when there are challenges that come up. Could be again regarding money. If money well, money's always an issue to some extent, um, but it doesn't have to be. I mean, this card doesn't have to represent money. It can also represent the way you're investing your energy, right? And so this would be telling you like as you are going forward into the rest of this year, um, make sure you're investing your energy in ways that will pay off in the best way for you. And sometimes that means confronting um, obstacles that might come up, as opposed to, like we saw with these first three cards, kind of driving yourself away from obstacles, because then it turns out that things are even worse that way, right? So there's kind of a lot there, but the repetition of the sevens draws my attention to them, right? There's something here about challenges or obstacles and how you deal with them. Um, and then the eight of coins draws my eye quite a lot too, as the first card down for what to embrace. And so if there is something to do with, um, I'm just looking at the chat. If there's something to do with finances, then this card would definitely be saying to be cautious about the way you're investing money. Like really prudent. Do what everybody else is doing. Go with the group think, that kind of thing. Don't try to take a risk. Um, embrace that. Yes, Tori says, I've been sorting my finances, trying to have more structure, routine, and being organized and productive. Yeah, that will pay off for you. Embracing an eight of coins life. Slow, steady, cautious, prudent, organized about your finances, resources, but also your values and your energy. Will pay off for you, and embrace, even if or when challenges come up with those things, energy, money, finances, all of that, like embrace it head on, as opposed to backing out, going the wrong way, turning around, driving away, that kind of thing. Welcome to anyone who might be joining. My name is Will of the Hermit's Lantern Tarot, and I've been live streaming. I'm getting to the end of my live stream today. I think this is the longest one I've ever done. And it's been a lot of fun, but I'm at 3 hours and 20 minutes at this point. And I'm out of water. My water bottle's empty. So I'm going to close it out for today. You're very welcome, Tori and Human. Sorry I didn't get to you today. But I'm planning to be back this weekend. I won't be on tomorrow, I don't think. And Saturday, maybe Saturday in the morning, but I'm hoping Sunday that I'll have time for another live stream. This was a lot of fun for me. I got a lot out of it. I hope that you all got a lot out of it too. This is wonderful experience and practice for me. With the cards, but I also just like to hang out with you guys. I really enjoy it. I find that the other day I hadn't done a live stream in a while, and I just felt like something is missing. I felt antsy, and I was like, I'll do a live stream tomorrow. And then I did it, and I felt so good afterwards. So, I'm going to make an effort, to the extent that my schedule allows for it, to do them frequently and as regularly as I can allow. I do have a full-time day job, so It won't always permit it, but when I can. So please consider subscribing, liking the video if you enjoy what I do here on my channel, The Hermit's Lantern Tarot. And Tori, I hope you have a great week too. And if I wasn't able to read for you today, I look forward to reading for you in the future. And if I did read for you today, thanks for the opportunity, and I hope you gain some clarity. I will end it there. Have a great evening, everyone, and be kind to one another. I will see you next time. Bye bye.